Bride arrived to find an abandoned baby and no husband, but she made the child her own. Amara had always dreamed of this day. For as long as she could remember, she imagined walking down the aisle in a white dress, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers, and smiling at the man she was going to spend her life with. She had planned every little detail, the way her hair would fall, the soft music that would play, and even the laughter of her friends as they gathered around her. Today was supposed to be perfect. The morning sun streamed gently through her bedroom window, spilling light over her carefully arranged wedding dress and the soft lace shoes she had chosen months ago. Everything seemed calm and beautiful, and yet a small flutter of nerves danced in her stomach. Her family had been bustling around the house for hours. Her mother fussed over her hair, carefully pinning each strand in place, while her younger sister adjusted the delicate veil, making sure it sat just right. The house smelled faintly of roses and jasmine from the bouquets that had arrived early that morning. There was a quiet excitement in the air, the kind that made everyone speak in whispers and smile a little too brightly. Amara tried to focus on the happiness, the love, and the promises that lay ahead. She thought of the life she had always wanted, a life filled with laughter, companionship, and family. As she looked into the mirror, she could barely recognize the reflection staring back at her. The woman in the mirror looked elegant and radiant, but there was also something fragile in her eyes. She was nervous, yes, but more than that, she was hopeful. She had never allowed herself to imagine a future that could be taken from her, yet today she felt a strange mix of anticipation and fear. Her heart raced at the thought of seeing him, the man she was about to marry. She had met him 2 years ago, and though their journey had been far from perfect, she had believed in him. She had believed that love could conquer doubts, distance, and mistakes. Today was meant to be the day all of those hopes came true. The car ride to his house felt longer than usual. Amara's mother sat beside her, holding her hand tightly, while her sister chatted nervously in the back seat. The streets of the town were quiet, as if the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for the moment when two people would say the words that promised a lifetime together. Birds chirped outside and the sunlight bounced off the rooftops, painting everything in soft shades of gold. Amara tried to imagine what he would be like when she saw him, but a strange unease kept creeping into her thoughts. She pushed it aside, telling herself that it was just the nerves, nothing more. When they finally arrived, the car slowed to a stop in front of the house that was supposed to be filled with laughter and celebration. Amara's heart beat faster, and she could feel her hands trembling slightly. She stepped out of the car, her white dress brushing gently against the ground, and looked toward the doorway. But instead of seeing the familiar, warm smile she had been waiting for, she saw silence. The kind of silence that felt heavy and strange, unlike anything she had experienced before. The windows were dark, the front door stood slightly ajar, and not a single light shone from inside. Confused, she stepped closer, calling out his name softly at first, then a little louder. "I'm here," she said, her voice shaking despite her best effort to stay calm. "Are you ready?" There was no answer. The quiet seemed to grow louder with every second, echoing in her ears. Amara's stomach twisted into knots, a sudden chill running through her body. She looked around, searching for some sign that this was all a misunderstanding. Someone, anyone, to explain why the house was empty. But there was nothing. Only silence and the soft rustle of leaves and the wind. As she walked slowly up the steps to the porch, trying to steady her racing heart, something caught her eye. There, at the edge of the doorway, was a small bundle wrapped in a faded blanket. At first, She thought it might be a gift or some forgotten decoration, but then she realized it was moving. Her heart skipped a beat. She bent down carefully, her fingers trembling as she lifted the bundle in her arms. Inside was a tiny baby, no more than a few months old, with delicate features and soft, dark hair. The child looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes, and Amara felt an unexpected warmth spreading through her chest. The baby's presence was shocking, almost impossible to comprehend in that moment. Amara had arrived expecting to find her husband, to exchange vows and celebrate love. She had never imagined that instead she would find a helpless child, abandoned and alone. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, and for a moment everything she had planned felt distant and fragile. She rocked the baby gently, whispering soothing words, even though she didn't know if anyone could hear her. The tiny hand clutched at her finger, and she felt a deep, instinctive connection that she could not explain. Her mother and sister rushed forward as soon as they saw the baby. Concern and shock painted their faces, but Amara held the child close, feeling a strange sense of calm. "Where did this come from?" her mother whispered, her voice trembling. "Why would anyone leave a baby here?" Amara shook her head slowly, unsure of what to say. She didn't know the answer, and for a moment the question seemed too heavy to bear. But she did know one thing: she could not leave this child alone. Amara carried the baby inside, each step feeling surreal. The house was empty and quiet, with no sign of the man she had come to marry. It was as if the world had shifted beneath her feet, pulling her into a reality she had never imagined. The baby cooed softly, curling against her chest, and in that moment, Amara realized that her life had taken an unexpected turn. She had arrived seeking love from one person, but instead, she had been given a chance to care for another life. Sitting on the sofa, holding the child in her arms, Amara tried to process everything. She thought about the plans she had made, the dreams she had held close to her heart, and the man she had expected to see. None of that mattered anymore. What mattered was this small, fragile life depending on her. She felt a determination growing inside her, a quiet but firm resolve. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she would protect this child. She would care for her, love her, and make sure she never felt abandoned again. Hours passed, and the day that was meant to be filled with celebration had turned into one of uncertainty and reflection. Amara fed the baby, changed her tiny clothes, and hummed soft songs she remembered from her own childhood. The world outside continued in its usual rhythm, unaware of the quiet miracle unfolding inside the empty house. And though her heart ached for the man who was not there, she felt a new sense of purpose rising within her, a promise to this innocent life that she would do everything she could to give her safety, warmth, and love. By the time evening came, the house no longer felt empty. The laughter she had expected from a wedding party was replaced by the soft gurgles and coos of the baby. Amara realized that while her day had not gone as planned, it had given her something even more precious than she could have imagined. In the quiet moments, as she held the child close and watched her sleep, she understood that life often had a way of surprising people. Sometimes those surprises were not what they had hoped for, but they could lead to new beginnings, unexpected joys, and a love deeper than anything they had known. That night, Amara fell asleep on the sofa with the baby tucked safely against her chest. The dreams she had held for herself, the wedding, the husband, the life she had imagined, felt distant, almost like memories from another world. In their place was something new, a promise, a responsibility, and a bond that was hers to protect. She didn't know what the future held, and she didn't know how her life would change in the days to come. But she did know one thing with certainty. This child was hers, and she would do everything in her power to keep her safe and loved. As the stars appeared in the night sky outside the window, Amara whispered softly, as if speaking to both the baby and herself, "I'll take care of you. You're not alone anymore." And in that quiet, fragile moment, a new chapter of her life had begun, one that would be filled with challenges, surprises, and above all, an unbreakable bond of love. The sunlight spilled gently across the floor, falling on the baby who was still sleeping soundly in her arms. For a moment, she simply watched the child, marveling at how small and perfect she seemed. Amara had never imagined that she would find herself in this situation, alone in a house that was supposed to be full of celebration, with a baby she did not know, and no sign of the man she had come to marry. Yet, despite the shock, she felt a growing sense of responsibility, a tug at her heart that she could not ignore. She tried to make sense of everything. Where had the baby come from? Why had someone left her here, alone and vulnerable? And what had happened to the man she had been about to marry? These questions swirled in Amara's mind like a storm, and for a moment she felt completely overwhelmed. She sat on the sofa, rocking the child gently, feeling the soft rise and fall of the baby's chest. There was something in her eyes, a quiet trust, that made Amara's heart ache. It was impossible to ignore the fact that this tiny life depended entirely on her. Amara knew she had to take action. She needed answers, but she also knew that the first priority was the baby's safety and comfort. She gathered a few essentials from the house, soft blankets, clean clothes, and some baby supplies she had fortunately found in a cupboard. She made a small corner on the sofa where the child could sleep safely, tucking her in with care. The baby stirred, letting out a soft gurgle, and Amara smiled softly, feeling a warmth that surprised her. In the middle of confusion and fear, there was also love, a sudden, undeniable connection that she could not explain. Hours passed, and Amara realized she could not stay in the house without understanding what had happened. She had to find out where her husband was and why he was missing. She stepped outside carefully, holding the baby close against her chest. The town was waking up. Birds chirped in the trees, and a few neighbors were beginning their morning routines. Amara's mind raced with questions, but she knew that whatever answers she found, she could not leave the baby alone. She went to the nearest neighbor first, a kind woman named Mrs. Patel, who had known Amara's family for years. Mrs. Patel's eyes widened when she saw the baby in Amara's arms. "Amara, what is this? Where did you find her?" she exclaimed. Amara explained as calmly as she could, describing the discovery at the front door and the absence of her husband. Mrs. Patel listened carefully, her face full of concern. "This is very strange," she said. "No one has seen your husband today, and I've never heard of a baby being left here before. We should call the authorities to make sure she is safe." Amara hesitated. She knew the authorities could help, but she also feared that the baby might be taken away from her. She had already felt a connection that she could not deny, a sense that this child was meant to be in her care. Yet, at the same time, she did not want to break the law or put anyone in danger. Mrs. Patel saw her hesitation and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Amara, you're doing the right thing by keeping her safe. Let's call for help, and we'll make sure you don't lose her." With Mrs. Patel's guidance, Amara made the call. She explained the situation to the authorities, carefully emphasizing that the baby was alone and vulnerable. They assured her that help would arrive soon, and in the meantime, she should continue to care for the child. Amara hung up, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. She returned to the house, sitting on the sofa with the baby in her arms, stroking her soft hair and whispering comforting words. Every little coo and sigh from the baby seemed to strengthen Amara's resolve. She realized that even though her wedding day had turned into a day of uncertainty, it had also given her a purpose she had never expected. As the day wore on, neighbors began to gather, offering support and expressing concern. Some brought food and water, others offered clothes and blankets for the baby. Amara was grateful, though she felt a pang of sadness every time someone asked where the baby had come from or why she was alone. She did not have answers, and she did not want to think about the man who had abandoned her in this way. Instead, she focused on the child, feeding her, changing her clothes, and soothing her whenever she cried. Each small act of care strengthened the bond between them, a bond that seemed to grow stronger with every passing hour. By late afternoon, a social worker arrived to assess the situation. She asked Amara many questions, and Amara answered honestly, recounting how she had found the baby and the absence of her husband. The social worker examined the child, noting that she appeared healthy but in need of immediate attention and care. "You've done very well to keep her safe," the social worker said gently. "It's unusual for a child to be abandoned in this way, but right now the most important thing is her well-being. We'll need to investigate, but you should continue to care for her until we can ensure she's in a safe environment." Amara nodded, feeling a mix of relief and determination. She realized that while the future was uncertain, she had made a choice. She would protect this child, no matter what. She fed her dinner, sang soft songs, and held her close, feeling an overwhelming sense of responsibility and love. She could not imagine leaving the baby, and in that moment, she made a silent promise to herself. She would be her protector, her guide, and her family. As evening fell, the reality of the situation began to settle in. Amara had arrived at her husband's house expecting a life of love and companionship, but instead, she had found herself caring for a tiny, abandoned child. The dreams she had held for herself seemed to have vanished, replaced by a new purpose she had never anticipated. She knew it would not be easy. There would be questions, challenges, and moments of doubt. But she also felt a quiet strength within her, a determination to face whatever lay ahead. Night came slowly, bringing with it a calm that contrasted sharply with the chaos of the day. Amara sat on the sofa, the baby nestled against her chest, and reflected on the twists of fate that had brought her here. She thought of the man who was missing, of the life she had imagined, and of the child who had appeared at her doorstep. The world felt different now, unfamiliar and uncertain, but in the middle of that uncertainty, Amara felt a deep, unshakable certainty. She could care for this child, and she would. She remembered the soft coos, the tiny hands that clutched at her fingers, and the innocent gaze of the baby. In those moments, all the fear and confusion faded. All that mattered was the life she held in her arms, the responsibility she had chosen to embrace. She whispered softly, "You are safe with me. I will take care of you." And in that quiet, fragile moment, Amara realized that life had given her a second chance, not the one she had planned, but one that was no less meaningful. The next few days were a blur of adjustments and learning. Amara balanced caring for the baby with answering questions from neighbors, social workers, and friends. She learned how to feed her properly, how to soothe her when she cried, and how to create a small, safe space where she could sleep comfortably. Every challenge was met with patience and determination, and every small success brought a sense of pride and joy. She discovered a strength within herself that she had never known, a resilience born from love and necessity. Evenings became her favorite time of the day. She would sit quietly in the living room, the baby in her arms, and watch her breathe softly in sleep. She hummed gentle melodies she remembered from her childhood, feeling a connection that went beyond words. Amara knew that she had been given an unexpected gift, the chance to nurture, protect, and love a life that depended on her. And though her own dreams had been interrupted, she found that new dreams were forming, dreams filled with hope, love, and the possibility of a different kind of happiness. Amara also began to notice small moments of joy that she had never experienced before. The way the baby smiled when she recognized her voice, the soft laughter that bubbled up when she made funny faces, and the tiny hands that reached out to touch her face. All of these moments filled her heart with a warmth she could not describe. They reminded her that life was unpredictable, and sometimes the most beautiful things came when least expected. By the end of the week, the community had accepted the new reality. People offered help and support, but they also respected Amara's growing bond with the child. She was no longer just a caretaker. She was a mother in every sense of the word, even if the official papers had yet to be completed. And through it all, she never once regretted her decision to stay with the baby. She had found a purpose that was deeply fulfilling, a reason to wake up each morning with hope and determination. Amara understood that challenges lay ahead. There would be questions to answer, obstacles to overcome, and perhaps even moments of doubt. But she also knew something more important. She had a heart full of love, courage, and determination, and a child who trusted her completely. Together they would face whatever the future held, and together they would create a life filled with care, protection, and joy. And so, as the days turned into weeks, Amara embraced her new reality with an open heart. She held the baby close each night, whispered words of comfort, and allowed herself to imagine a future where love, in its most unexpected form, had given her a second chance at life. Days turned into weeks, and life for Amara began to feel both familiar and strange at the same time. She woke each morning to the soft coos and tiny movements of the baby in her arms, and though the initial shock of finding her had faded, a new reality had settled in, a reality filled with responsibilities she had never imagined for herself. Amara had to learn everything from scratch: how to feed a baby, how to soothe her when she cried, and how to make her feel safe and loved. Each small success brought a sense of pride, but every challenge reminded her that this was no ordinary situation. Amara quickly realized that caring for a baby was not easy. The sleepless nights, the constant feedings, and the endless diaper changes were exhausting, both physically and emotionally. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, unsure if she could handle everything on her own. She would sit quietly in the nursery, holding the baby close, and whisper, "I'm learning, little one. I'll get it right." Sometimes the baby would respond with a soft gurgle, as if encouraging her, and those small gestures of connection gave Amara strength to keep going. The more time she spent with the baby, the stronger the bond between them became. Amara began to notice little things: the way the baby's eyes followed her movements, the tiny hands that grasped her fingers, and the soft sighs of contentment when she was held. These small moments of connection reminded Amara why she had chosen to stay with the child despite all the uncertainty. She felt a sense of purpose she had never known before, a feeling that her life had meaning beyond her own dreams and plans. Each day she grew more confident in her ability to care for the baby, even as the questions about the past and the missing husband lingered in her mind. The town around Amara began to notice the changes in her life as well. Neighbors who had initially been surprised or even concerned by the sudden appearance of the baby began to offer help. Some brought food and supplies, others offered advice from their own experiences raising children. Amara was grateful for the support, though she often found herself quietly determined to manage as much as she could on her own. She wanted to prove to herself, and perhaps to the world, that she could rise to the challenge. The gratitude she felt for the small acts of kindness only strengthened her resolve to create a safe and loving environment for the child. Despite her growing confidence, there were moments when Amara's heart ached with loneliness and uncertainty. She thought often of the man who had disappeared, the wedding that had never taken place, and the life she had imagined for herself. Sometimes the questions overwhelmed her. Why had he left? Was he coming back? Would this child ever have answers about her parents? These thoughts sometimes brought tears to Amara's eyes, yet she would quickly push them aside. There was a baby depending on her, and she knew she could not allow fear or sadness to interfere with her responsibility. Every tear she shed in private reminded her of her resilience and the strength she needed to face each day. Amara also realized that she needed to create a sense of normalcy for both herself and the baby. She established routines, feeding at certain times, naps in a quiet corner, and gentle play in the afternoons. She decorated the nursery with soft colors and small toys she had carefully chosen. Each item was a symbol of love and care, a message to the baby that she was wanted, cherished, and safe. Amara often found herself talking to the child as she worked, telling her stories, singing songs, and sharing dreams she hoped they could have together. Even if the baby did not understand every word, Amara knew that the warmth and attention would be felt, and that was enough to give her comfort and confidence. As the weeks passed, Amara began to face practical challenges as well. There were appointments with doctors, paperwork for the baby's welfare, and questions from authorities who wanted to ensure the child's safety. Each meeting was nerve-wracking, and Amara sometimes felt judged by strangers who did not understand the bond she had already formed with the baby. Yet, she approached each challenge with determination, answering questions honestly, and showing her dedication through her actions. Slowly, she realized that her commitment was being recognized, and the fear of losing the baby began to ease. Amara also faced moments of surprise and joy. One afternoon, while sitting in the garden, she noticed the baby attempting to roll over for the first time. Amara's heart leapt with excitement. She clapped softly, encouraging the small movements, and laughed with delight as the baby squealed in response. It was in these tiny victories, the first smile, the first laugh, the first step, that Amara felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Each milestone reminded her that she was not just surviving this unexpected situation, she was helping a life grow, thrive, and flourish. There were quiet evenings, too, when the house felt peaceful and calm. Amara would sit on the sofa, the baby nestled in her lap, and reflect on the journey that had brought them together. She realized that love could take many forms, sometimes appearing in unexpected ways and at unexpected times. The love she felt for this child was different from anything she had imagined for a partner or spouse. It was pure, unconditional, and all-encompassing. She found herself thinking less about the man who had abandoned her and more about the life she was building piece by piece, with the baby who had become the center of her world. As the bond deepened, Amara began to imagine the future in new ways. She thought about the child's first steps, her first words, and the many moments of joy they would share. She pictured birthdays, holidays, and quiet nights filled with stories and songs. These thoughts gave her hope and motivation. Even though the circumstances of their meeting were far from ordinary, Amara understood that life had given her an opportunity to create a new kind of happiness, one built on care, resilience, and love. However, challenges were never far away. There were times when the baby cried endlessly, leaving Amara exhausted and questioning her abilities. She would pace the floor, singing softly, rocking the child with patience she didn't know she possessed. There were moments of doubt when she wondered if she was doing enough or if she could truly meet all the needs of this small, dependent life. Yet each time she found a way to push through, drawing strength from the connection they shared and the knowledge that her love was the most important thing the baby could have. Amara also began to notice how the community's perception of her was changing. The neighbors who had once whispered with curiosity or suspicion now greeted her warmly. They admired her dedication, the way she cared for the child, and the resilience she showed despite the unexpected circumstances. Their support became a source of encouragement, and Amara learned that even in moments of difficulty, there was kindness and compassion in the world. The baby's presence seemed to inspire others to reach out, creating a small but meaningful network of care around them both. As the weeks continued, Amara found herself growing in ways she had never anticipated. She became more patient, more resourceful, and more confident in her abilities. She learned to navigate challenges calmly, to anticipate the baby's needs, and to create a stable, loving environment. She discovered a strength within herself that she had never known existed, a resilience born from love and necessity. Each day was a lesson, a new experience, and a small victory in the ongoing journey of motherhood. One afternoon, as she watched the baby reach for a toy with determination, Amara felt a profound sense of pride. She realized that despite the challenges, the sleepless nights, and the uncertainty, she had made a choice that was right. She had chosen to embrace responsibility, to love without conditions, and to create a safe and nurturing environment for a life that had been left in her care. In that moment, Amara understood that she was not just surviving. She was thriving, growing, and creating a bond that would last a lifetime. Even as the days brought new challenges, Amara never wavered. She continued to care for the baby with unwavering dedication, learning each day what it meant to be a mother. She laughed, sang, and comforted, celebrated milestones, and soothed fears. Every small act of care was a step toward building a life filled with love and security. And though the future remained uncertain, Amara felt a deep, unshakable certainty in her heart. She would protect, nurture, and love this child for as long as she lived. As the sun set each evening, Amara often sat quietly, the baby resting against her chest, reflecting on the journey that had brought them together. The house that had once felt empty and silent was now filled with life, warmth, and laughter. The bond between them had grown stronger with every passing day, a testament to the power of love, choice, and resilience. Amara understood that life did not always unfold as planned, but sometimes the unexpected moments brought the deepest joy, the strongest connections, and the most meaningful experiences. And so, each day Amara continued to embrace her new reality with an open heart. She faced challenges, celebrated victories, and nurtured a life that depended entirely on her. In the quiet moments, she whispered softly to the baby, "We will face everything together. You are safe with me, and I will always love you." And in those words, she found both purpose and peace, knowing that love, unexpected, unconditional, and powerful, had given her a new beginning. As weeks turned into months, Amara began to notice a change not only in herself, but in the life around her. The house that had once felt empty and silent was slowly filling with warmth, laughter, and the quiet hum of daily routines. The baby, whom Amara had begun to call Maya, was growing stronger, learning new things every day. Each little milestone rolling over, reaching for a toy, even the first tentative attempt to crawl, brought immeasurable joy to Amara. With every tiny step Maya took, Amara felt a mixture of pride and wonder. She realized that despite the challenges, her life was becoming more meaningful than she had ever imagined. At first, caring for Maya had been exhausting, physically and emotionally. There had been sleepless nights, endless feedings, and the constant worry of whether she was doing enough. But over time, Amara developed routines and rhythms that made life smoother. She learned how to anticipate Maya's needs before she cried, how to soothe her with gentle words and touches, and how to create an environment that felt safe and comforting. In the process, Amara discovered patience and resilience she had never known she possessed. Each challenge she overcame strengthened her confidence, and every moment of connection with Maya deepened the love between them. As Maya grew, Amara realized she had to think not only about the present, but about the future. She began researching childcare, health, and education, determined to give Maya every opportunity possible. She visited the local clinic regularly to make sure Maya's health was on track, and she even attended parenting workshops to learn more about child development. Amara wanted to be more than a caretaker. She wanted to be a guide, a teacher, and a source of comfort and stability. She understood that this child's life had already begun with uncertainty, and she was determined to provide a safe, loving home where Maya could flourish. The community around Amara continued to play an important role in their lives. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers often offered help, bringing meals, toys, or advice. Some were curious about the circumstances that had brought Maya into Amara's care, but most simply admired Amara's dedication and resilience. Slowly, Amara began to feel a sense of belonging in her new role. She was no longer just the young woman who had arrived at her husband's empty house. She was Maya's mother, a protector, and a figure of stability in the child's life. This realization brought her both comfort and pride. Even with the support of others, life was not without its struggles. There were moments when Amara felt overwhelmed by responsibility, unsure if she was doing everything perfectly. Maya would sometimes cry for hours, and no amount of soothing seemed to help. On such days, Amara would pace the floor, whispering to Maya that she was safe, that she was loved, and that together they would get through everything. These moments were exhausting, but they also reinforced the bond between them. Amara realized that love was not just about joy and laughter. It was about patience, resilience, and being present even when the task felt impossible. One day, Amara received news that the authorities had begun searching for Maya's parents. It was a moment of mixed emotions. Part of her wanted to know the truth, while another part feared losing the child she had come to love so deeply. She spoke to the social worker assigned to the case, expressing her willingness to cooperate, but also explaining that she had already formed a deep bond with Maya, and that her priority was the child's safety and well-being. The social worker listened carefully, noting Amara's dedication and care. While the investigation continued, it became clear that Amara was the one providing the stability and love that Maya needed most. As the days went on, Amara began to think about the kind of life she wanted to create for Maya. She wanted her home to be filled with laughter, learning, and love. She began to plan small activities, like reading simple books together, singing songs, and taking walks in the nearby park. Each activity, no matter how small, was a step toward building a sense of normalcy and joy in their lives. Amara realized that motherhood was not just about providing food and shelter. It was about nurturing curiosity, confidence, and happiness. One afternoon, while playing with Maya in the living room, Amara noticed the child's curiosity growing. Maya reached for a colorful toy, her tiny fingers grasping it with determination. Amara smiled and encouraged her, praising each attempt and celebrating every small success. She understood that these moments were more than play. They were lessons in independence, courage, and exploration. Through these activities, Maya was learning about the world, and Amara was learning about herself, discovering patience, creativity, and joy in unexpected places. Amara also began to notice how much she had grown emotionally. The fear, confusion, and sadness she had felt when she first discovered Maya had transformed into a quiet strength and resilience. She no longer spent hours thinking about the man who had disappeared or the wedding that had never happened. Instead, her focus was on the life she was building with Maya, on the love and care that she could give every day. She understood that life did not always unfold as planned, but sometimes the most unexpected paths led to the most meaningful journeys. Despite the progress, Amara was aware that there would always be challenges ahead. There were health appointments, social services check-ins, and the constant learning curve of parenting. But she faced each challenge with determination and grace, finding joy in small victories and lessons in every difficulty. She had learned to adapt, to listen, and to respond with care and patience. Through it all, the bond with Maya grew stronger, a quiet but powerful reminder that love could overcome uncertainty and adversity. The evenings became Amara's favorite part of the day. She would sit in the living room, Maya curled against her chest, and reflect on how far they had come. The quiet moments of connection, the soft coos and tiny hands exploring her face, and the feeling of being needed and loved brought her a sense of peace she had never known. Amara realized that happiness was not always about grand gestures or perfect plans. It was about small moments, shared quietly between two people who cared deeply for one another. It was a simple outing, but it marked a turning point in their lives. Amara watched as Maya's eyes widened with curiosity at the colors, sounds, and smells around her. She held her close, pointing out fruits, vegetables, and flowers, explaining each one in gentle, simple words. Passers-by smiled at the sight, recognizing the strong bond between mother and child. In that moment, Amara felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. She realized that she was not only caring for Maya's physical needs, but also nurturing her mind, spirit, and sense of wonder. As the months continued, Amara developed a routine that balanced care, learning, and play. She established bedtime rituals, morning walks, and quiet afternoons filled with reading or drawing. Maya responded beautifully to the structure and attention, thriving in the environment Amara had created. The house was no longer empty. It was alive with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and the soft rhythm of everyday life. Amara found herself smiling more, laughing more, and discovering joy in ways she had never imagined. Through it all, Amara never lost sight of the fact that love had brought them together. The child who had appeared at her doorstep unexpectedly had changed her life in ways she could not have predicted. Amara realized that love was not just about finding a partner or following a plan. It was about being present, nurturing, and devoted to someone who needed her. In caring for Maya, she had discovered a new kind of fulfillment, a sense of purpose that went beyond her own desires or expectations. As the sun set each evening, Amara would sit quietly, watching Maya play or drift to sleep, and reflect on the journey that had brought them together. She thought about the challenges they had faced, the milestones they had achieved, and the love that had grown between them. Amara understood that life was unpredictable, but it was also full of opportunities for growth, connection, and joy. The bond she shared with Maya was a testament to the power of love, patience, and resilience. Even as they faced new challenges, Amara felt confident in her ability to provide a stable and loving environment for Maya. She had grown emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, learning lessons about strength, compassion, and perseverance. She had discovered that motherhood was not simply a role. It was a journey, one that required courage, patience, and unwavering love. And through every step of that journey, she had found meaning, fulfillment, and joy in the life she was building with Maya. As the days turned into months and the months into years, Amara began to see the fruits of her dedication. Maya was healthy, happy, and thriving. The bond between them had grown stronger with each passing day, a connection built on trust, love, and shared experiences. Amara understood that while the circumstances of their meeting had been unexpected, the life they were creating together was beautiful, meaningful, and filled with hope. And so Amara continued to nurture, protect, and guide Maya, embracing the challenges and celebrating the victories. Each day was a new opportunity to show love, provide care, and build a home filled with warmth and happiness. The journey was not always easy, but it was deeply rewarding. Amara had discovered that true fulfillment came not from what she had imagined for herself, but from the love and life she had chosen to create with the child who had changed everything. Years passed, and Amara watched Maya grow from a tiny, fragile infant into a lively, curious little girl. The journey had not been easy. There had been sleepless nights, challenges with feeding, and moments of worry when Maya fell ill or struggled to reach new milestones. Yet every difficulty had strengthened the bond between them and deepened the love Amara felt. She had learned patience, resilience, and the power of unconditional care. Through it all, Amara realized that her life had been transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Maya was a bright, joyful child full of curiosity and energy. She loved to explore the small garden behind the house, chase butterflies, and pick flowers for Amara. Every day was an adventure, and Amara made it her mission to fill each moment with learning, love, and laughter. She taught Maya about colors, numbers, and letters, but also about kindness, empathy, and the importance of caring for others. Amara wanted Maya to grow up not only strong and healthy, but also compassionate and confident. Watching her daughter discover the world brought Amara immense joy and a profound sense of fulfillment. Amara often reflected on the journey that had brought them together. She remembered the day she had arrived at the house, expecting a wedding, only to find an abandoned baby and an empty home. At first, the situation had seemed overwhelming and impossible to navigate, but in the months and years that followed, she had embraced her new life fully. She realized that sometimes life's most unexpected moments held the greatest blessings. The man who had disappeared, the wedding that never happened, they were no longer what defined her life. What mattered was the love and life she had created with Maya. As Maya grew older, she became more independent. She learned to walk, talk, and play with a confidence that brought pride to Amara's heart. Each milestone was celebrated as a shared victory. Amara remembered the first time Maya took a step on her own, her tiny hands outstretched for support. The laughter and excitement that followed filled the house with warmth, and Amara realized that these simple, everyday moments were the true treasures of life. Through teaching, guiding, and supporting her child, she had discovered a new depth of joy and purpose. The bond between Amara and Maya was evident to everyone who saw them together. Neighbors often commented on how close they were, and friends admired Amara's dedication. Even strangers could sense the love and care that defined their relationship. Amara had not only provided Maya with safety and comfort, but also with a sense of belonging and family. In a world that had started with uncertainty and loss, she had built a home filled with stability, trust, and love. Amara also took the time to help Maya understand her beginnings in a gentle and age-appropriate way. She explained that some things in life were uncertain, and that people sometimes had to face challenges they could not control. She told Maya that she had been left alone at the start of her life, but that Amara had chosen to care for her because she loved her. Maya listened with wide, thoughtful eyes, absorbing every word. Through these conversations, Amara taught her daughter resilience, empathy, and the power of love to overcome hardship. Maya learned that family was not just about biology. It was about care, devotion, and connection. The years also brought new routines and joys. Amara introduced Maya to hobbies like drawing, gardening, and simple crafts. They would spend afternoons in the park, chasing leaves in the wind, or collecting small treasures from nature. Amara read bedtime stories each night, encouraging Maya's imagination and curiosity. These small, daily acts became the foundation of a life filled with love and learning. Amara understood that it was not grand gestures that mattered most, but the consistent, gentle care she provided every day. Amara also began to notice her own personal growth. She had become more patient, understanding, and confident. The challenges of raising Maya had strengthened her character and taught her lessons about perseverance, empathy, and the rewards of selfless love. She no longer felt incomplete or defined by past disappointments. Instead, she saw herself as a strong, capable mother who had overcome uncertainty and created a life of meaning and joy. Her journey with Maya had not only shaped the child's life but also transformed her own in profound ways. As Maya approached school age, Amara focused on preparing her for the next steps in life. She taught her letters, numbers, and basic reading, fostering a love for learning. She also emphasized the importance of kindness, honesty, and respect. Amara wanted Maya to enter the world with confidence, knowing that she had a strong foundation of love and support. Each small lesson, each conversation, and each shared experience strengthened Maya's sense of security and trust, reinforcing the bond that had grown since the day Amara found her on the doorstep. Amara also allowed herself moments of reflection and gratitude. She often looked back on the early days, the shock, the uncertainty, and the fear, and marveled at how far they had come. She thought about the strength it had taken to navigate those first weeks and months, and the courage that had guided her decisions. She realized that those moments had been the beginning of something beautiful, a life filled with love, growth, and shared experiences. The hardships had not broken her. They had shaped her into the mother she had become. There were also moments of celebration, both big and small. Amara celebrated Maya's first words, her first steps, and her first day of school. She cherished the birthdays, holidays, and quiet evenings spent reading or drawing together. Each occasion reinforced the reality that they were building a life together, a life full of joy, security, and love. Amara understood that happiness was found in these shared experiences, in the everyday moments that shaped their bond and created lasting memories. Despite the challenges of raising a child alone, Amara never wavered in her commitment. She faced obstacles with determination, finding creative solutions and seeking support when needed. She balanced work, household responsibilities, and parenting with grace, proving to herself and others that she was capable of creating a stable and nurturing environment. Through her actions, Amara demonstrated the power of resilience, dedication, and unconditional love. As Maya grew older, she began to express her own personality and interests. She loved to paint, tell stories, and ask endless questions about the world around her. Amara encouraged her curiosity, guiding her gently while allowing her the freedom to explore and learn. She understood that part of motherhood was helping a child discover who they were and supporting them as they found their place in the world. Every question, every new skill, and every burst of laughter was a reminder of the life they had built together. The community continued to support them as well. Friends and neighbors offered guidance, shared experiences, and celebrated milestones with Amara and Maya. Their encouragement reinforced the sense of belonging and stability that Amara had worked so hard to create. Maya thrived in this environment, surrounded by love not only from her mother but also from a caring and supportive community. The connections they had built served as a reminder that family extended beyond the home, encompassing those who offered guidance, support, and kindness. Over time, Amara realized that the life she had once imagined, complete with a husband and a traditional family, was not the only path to happiness. The love she shared with Maya was as powerful, meaningful, and fulfilling as any dream she had held before. She understood that life did not always follow plans, but it offered opportunities for growth, joy, and unexpected blessings. Amara's journey with Maya had taught her that love could flourish in the most surprising circumstances, and that family was defined by care, devotion, and shared experiences rather than expectations or tradition. As Maya prepared to start school, Amara reflected on the journey that had brought them together. From the day she had found Maya on the doorstep, abandoned and alone, to the present, they had grown together, faced challenges, and built a life filled with love. Amara realized that the years of care, patience, and dedication had not only shaped Maya's life, but had also transformed her own. She had discovered a strength, resilience, and capacity for love that she had never known before. On the first day of school, Amara walked Maya to the classroom, holding her hand tightly. Maya looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes, and Amara smiled, feeling a swell of pride and love. She knelt down, hugging her daughter, and whispered, "You are ready. You are strong. You are loved." Maya smiled, a bright, confident smile, and stepped into the classroom, ready to begin a new chapter. Amara watched her go, feeling a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. The child who had once been abandoned was now thriving, loved, and confident, a living testament to the power of care, resilience, and unwavering devotion. That evening, as Amara tucked Maya into bed, she reflected on the life they had built together. The journey had been filled with uncertainty, challenges, and unexpected turns, but it had also brought joy, growth, and love beyond measure. Amara understood that motherhood was not defined by circumstances or biology, but by the choices one made and the love one gave. She had chosen to embrace Maya, and in doing so, she had created a life that was meaningful, joyful, and full of hope. Amara held Maya close, whispering softly, "We have faced so much together, and look at how far we've come. You are my heart, my joy, and my greatest blessing." Maya smiled, nestling into her mother's embrace, and in that moment, all the hardships, all the uncertainty, and all the fear faded. What remained was love, a love that had transformed two lives and created a bond that would last forever. And so, Amara and Maya continued their journey together, facing the world with courage, resilience, and unwavering love. They had built a life filled with laughter, learning, and shared memories. The past, with its disappointments and unanswered questions, no longer defined them. What mattered was the life they had chosen to create, a life defined by love, care, and the extraordinary bond between mother and child. In the end, Amara realized that true happiness was not in the plans we make, but in the love we give and the lives we touch along the way.